for the English-speaking residents on the upcoming communal elections. At ING, we have different values. One which I think is very important is to empower people to stay a step ahead. And tonight is an opportunity for you to inform yourself about the elections to come, to form an opinion, and ultimately what I think is really important, to go and to vote. Because honestly, change happens with every one of us, and we can only create change, and I mean change not necessarily in the way of changing an actual situation, but at least changing the behavior and driving the future of the communal elections by ourselves going to these votes and making sure we cast a vote on time. And what I've learned, I've become a resident of Luxembourg recently, coming from Switzerland, and I have to say one of the things I was really impressed is the way you can vote here in Luxembourg, which I think is far more advanced, and the way you're being educated as a resident here, so I have to give a compliment there as well, which I think is actually quite impressive. So without further ado, let me hand over to Paul. Use this opportunity tonight, be active, challenge where there is a reason to be challenging, and I really look forward to have an interesting debate tonight.
You know, it's interesting. We perfectly timed the filling out the room. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seats left, but we'll see, you know, how we do. We did that by doing a bit of overbooking, and it worked out just fine. So I thank every single one of you for coming. And but before I go on with anything else, I want you all to join me in thanking ING for letting us do this here. If we didn't have a nice place to do this in, we wouldn't be able to do it. So please join me in thanking ING. And for tonight, we have 2 objectives. The first objective is to give you all an opportunity to hear from the aldermen, the mayor, the politicians who are in power, what the situation is in the city of Luxembourg, which is the most important city, I think, to just about all of us. And by the same token, to talk about the future and to see what their plans are. You can only be well-informed voters. I agree, we want everybody to vote, but we want you to vote wisely and well because you're well-informed. So this is part of an effort on the part of a number of us to help you get informed, to know what's going on so you can make sure that your vote really counts. It's nice to vote for people who are attractive, but and I'm not telling you to not do that, but I'm telling you we want you to vote for people who have brains, who will use them wisely and well for the future of the country that I think every single one of us in this room loves. That's the first objective. But the second objective is, I think virtually all of you who are here tonight are from the international community that's in Luxembourg. And Luxembourg is a great and a wonderful place. We all love being here. But to be honest, we didn't come to Luxembourg for the weather. We didn't come to Luxembourg for the music scene. We came to Luxembourg for business and for the opportunity to take care of ourselves, to have careers, and to take care of our families. And the business community is important, and sometimes I think it's not always given enough attention by some of the members of the political class. So part of what we wanted to do also with your presence and questions you might ask and your engagements later on in the cocktail party is to give us, you all, an opportunity to express your feelings, your hopes, your wishes, to make sure that the needs of the business community and international people are appropriately taken into consideration when decisions are made going forward and into the future. And those of you who know me know that I love a microphone, but that's not why we're here tonight, so let me give the microphone to Dow. I wish you all a pleasant evening, and I thank you all for coming and joining us tonight.
Thank you, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome at this election time event organized by the Luxembourg Times with the great cooperation of our business partners Amcham and the British Chamber of Commerce, and kindly hosted by ING. I'm so glad to see that there are so many of you here. If anybody ever says again that foreigners aren't interested in local politics, this is the evidence that that's not the case. Thank you for being here, and we'll have an interesting debate, I think, tonight, because we have 4 eminent speakers. I don't think I have to introduce you anymore because your names are right above you. And that's wonderful because we can start straight into the jump straight into the substance. Obviously, we're going to talk about the participation of foreigners in the voting tonight, and I want to kick off with that. We just had the latest numbers come in just before I left the office. In Luxembourg City, 16% of voters, according to our calculations, of foreign voters take part in the elections. I want to ask you, Liddy, is that number good enough?
Hi. Hi to everybody. Well, it is more than the double than last time. Even if you can't compare the numbers of last time being 2017, because in 2017 the rules were much more strict. For these elections, you don't have any obligation to have the residence for so many years. You just can vote if you are living here. So last time being 2017, we had 6,487 non-Luxembourgers who had participated in the vote, and today we have 12,626. So it's nearly the double. Of course, it's only 15 point something. Why? The question is, in fact, why didn't more people go for the inscription? I think maybe this evening here in this room, there are all the English-speaking people, all the British people who are here. Because just consider, only 211 British nationals went to the inscription. Fortunately, many more French, Portuguese and Italians. Why? One of the reasons is certainly because, especially here in our city, we have such an enormous development, and 10% of the population changes every year. So people come here, live here for some months, 1 year, 2 years, and then move over. So in smaller cities or in smaller neighborhoods, there you find very often people who have worked already here for years and who have settled. So that's maybe, not only maybe, certainly one of the reasons, because people, when they come in, their first priority is certainly not to go to inscription, because they have other problems to solve, and if they solve them well, and then maybe that. But the second one is certainly also, or maybe, and I hope so, is because in fact they feel fine here. The city of Luxembourg got months ago an award for the best living place here in Luxembourg. Only by foreigners. Only given by foreigners. I was really proud.
And you should be. Gabrielle, maybe jump over to you. The mayor is right. The number is twice as high as it was last time. The percentage is actually lower. Do you think the number is high enough?
First of all, thank you for the 211 British-speaking voter to be here present tonight. No, it will actually never be high enough. It will never be high enough. I think we've seen the effort that different parties has made over the last month to try to motivate our foreigner colleagues, neighbors, friends, family, co-workers to participate in those local elections. The rules change indeed. Now you don't need to live for 5 years in Luxembourg. At the minute you're registered in the city, would it be in Luxembourg or in any city of the country, you're able to vote. The thing is, here in Luxembourg we have the fact that people don't stay that long. So we don't have the tradition of people being able to stay 5 years long to be able to be interested into voting. We don't have that tradition. Why? maybe because people are leaving the city because of the housing issue to go to other cities here in the country because they can't afford to sit. So this is going to make a rebound to other topics of the discussion tonight, but it will never be enough. We cannot have a city where roughly 70% of the inhabitants are capable to vote or are eligible to participate and are not participating. I think whatever the result of the election would be for any of our party, any of us, we cannot be satisfied by the democratic representation we will have in that day.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned the number of 60% of the people actually do not vote because they don't want to or don't know about it, whatever we should. Sarah, what structural measures, what policies can the city pursue to make sure that the number goes up?
Well, first of all, there's one number which is missing because potentially we had 81,000 people who could have registered.
Yes.
So there are 30,000 people out of this 81,000 people who registered. But again, you have to also to welcome all these 13,000 people, nearly 30,000 people that registered. It's not to say that it's good at least they registered. You also have to keep in mind that Luxembourg is one out of 5 EU member states where voting is mandatory. So you also have to know that in most of the European member states, they don't know mandatory voting. And it's one question we got very often when we see non-Luxembourgers. They ask us, yeah, but why have I to register? And then it's mandatory. I fear a little bit this mandatory voting. It's something that a lot of people, they tell us. And there's just 5 member states in the European Union that have mandatory voting. And you also can even ask the question, there's also more and more Luxembourgers who are not showing up on election days. So that's another issue. So it's not just about Luxembourgers and non-Luxembourgers. There are not the non-Luxembourgers. There are 170 different nationalities who live here from all over the world. So it's a very complex matter and issue. I think that we address also all these people in English, in French, in German, and more in English, because we also celebrate marriages. And if you have 10 marriages, then out of these 10 marriages, you have perhaps 5 in French and 5 in English, and nearly no one in Luxembourgish anymore. So that's also a reality we have to face. I don't want to say more about this now, because I also want to give the floor to François.
I'm glad that there's also marriage in English now, but and I can see that everybody studied the number very, very carefully, because the 81,000 is also the number we looked at today. But the question about mandatory voting has come up among my friends. People are like, well, I don't know what happens if I don't vote, and maybe I'm not in the country that day, so no, I'm not going to register. So what does happen if you don't vote? If you don't vote, normally you got a fee. So, but that's also the Luxembourgers, but you don't get the fee. And that's even the issue you can raise is it still mandatory voting in Luxembourg if you don't get a fee? Even if Luxembourgers don't get a fee, but normally you should get a fee because that's in the law. But that's the consequence you have to face. And I think it's a fee about, I don't know what's the amount, but 200 euros, I don't know. But at least it's questioned, even constitutional one. Right. Well, there's another microphone there. There's another.
No, but I just want to be fair, François.
Okay.
Well, if it doesn't say what I want to say, I will say it.
But we realize that some people are afraid of this with mandatory votes, but we have to say, or we have to add that also, it's never prosecuted. So most of the people we talked with in this campaign, we realized that most of them it was very easy, I think, to convince them to register. And me and my team, we really did a lot of work during the last weeks to tell to the people. We made more than 10 actions, we distributed more than 5,000 flyers to the people, talked to the people. And a lot of people told us, I want to register and I will do it. But what we also realized is that by this, that we can't just do this before an election. What is really important is that we have another welcoming culture in this city, in the country, where we really try to integrate the people more and also do another form of participation. Because I don't want to live in a city and be elected in a city where a minority decides. And still, if the number now is better, we are far away from having a majority that decides in the upcoming election. And for me, it is not good enough. So we really, it has to begin with, as it was told before, we have a lot of people who, the turnover of the people coming to the city is running very fast, but at the moment they register at Beja Center, we really have to give them, reach them more the hand to integrate them in the neighborhoods, etc. We have to have another participation culture with the dialogue to the city council in the neighborhoods, etc. So I really realized that the people are motivated, but we have to give them the opportunity to participate more also when we don't have elections times. That's important. We need a city where all the people decide, and not only for the election, but also between the elections.
There are some smaller communities where participation is much higher. Famously, Besh has, I think, 40% participation rate. Now Besh is, I think, has 1,000 people or something. But I don't think we even vote because
More than Brits.
Registered once.
Registered.
But I can come back to what I wanted to say. And because it's an answer to this fear that some people have that, yes, and if that day on the election the weather is nice and I want to go abroad and I have holidays, there is a very simple answer. You can ask for voting by correspondence. So, and that you can ask it a month before. And so this fear at least is nonsense. There is not this fear.
But 1 month before you don't know how the weather is.
But nevertheless, if you can vote, and then you can stay here, and if the weather is bad, you stay at home, and if it's fine, you still go out. And so it's just, many people, and there again, there has been more flexibility, because before you had to give a reason why you could not be there for professional reasons, and you could not say 1 month before, I will be ill, so that was no reason. Nowadays, there is no more, you don't have to give a reason, you just have to ask for it. So it's really simple.
The easiest options would be that you move to Luxembourg and that you are registered. But it's not possible, because sometimes people ask also this question, why is it not possible that when I move to the city, I automatically am registered? Well, it's because EU law forbids it to the states that have mandatory voting, because it's only possible in those member states where you don't have mandatory voting. So, for example, in France, it's possible. Every non-French citizen, when they decide, if they took the decision, the government could be automatically registered on their list of voters. But here in Luxembourg, it's not possible, because that's due to EU law regulation.
Well, let's step away from the procedure for a moment, because, okay, mandatory voting, yes or no.